Nestled between Switzerland and Austria, there is a teeny tiny country that you might not even spot on the map. But guess what? It is actually the world's richest country. We are talking about Liechtenstein, the smallest country in the world that is secretly hoarding all the riches. Back in the day when Liechtenstein gained its independence, many believed it was just too small to survive on its own. But oh boy, did it prove them wrong. Today, its once rural population has now transformed into one of the wealthiest people walking on Earth. If you want to know how, stay with us for the next few moments. Once upon a time, Liechtenstein was part of the Holy Roman Empire until its sovereignty was established in the 1800s. While its territory is about 1/8 the size of Los Angeles, and its population is less than the attendance of a sold-out NFL stadium, it has leveraged its resources and strategic location in the heart of Europe to carve out its own unique place in the world. This small nation, despite its geographical size and limited natural resources, has always proven to be a country of indomitable spirit. The year 1815 was a significant one for Liechtenstein. This was when it gained its independence at a time when the political landscape of Europe was changing drastically. The Holy Roman Empire was dismantling at that time. This created a power vacuum in Central Europe. Liechtenstein, which had been part of the empire's complex network of states, seized the opportunity to stand on its own feet. The principality declared its sovereignty in 1815 and stepped out from the shadow of the once formidable empire. But it was still not fully independent. It was still a part of the Germanic Confederation that came after the destruction of the Holy Roman Empire. It was after the 7 Weeks' War that Liechtenstein became fully independent in 1866, when the Germanic Confederation was also dissolved. So, in a way, Liechtenstein was actually birthed in 1866. The story of Liechtenstein began in 1866, and it began with humble beginnings. In its early days, Liechtenstein was not the affluent nation we know today. The country and its people were so poor that they were fighting to eke out an existence. Their primary industry? Agriculture. The majority of its citizens were farmers, working the land to grow crops and raise livestock. But the harsh alpine climate, the steep mountain slopes, and the thin rocky soil made agriculture a tough task. The nation was desperate for economic improvements. A glimmer of hope appeared in the late 19th century when the Swiss textile industry made its way into Liechtenstein. The economy began to look up, and for a while things seemed to be improving. The influx of industry brought jobs, increased trade, and injected much-needed cash into the struggling economy. But then came the horrific World War I. As the conflict escalated, the Swiss packed up their businesses and retreated. The rug was pulled out from under Liechtenstein's feet, and once again, the tiny nation was left standing alone amidst economic uncertainty. The late 19th century marked the arrival of a game-changing era in Liechtenstein, the Industrial Revolution. Even before the Swiss textile firms made their entrance, the wheels of change were already in motion. The age of industry was sweeping across Europe, and Liechtenstein wasn't left untouched. While most of Europe was rapidly industrializing, Liechtenstein, with its rugged landscape and limited resources, lagged. Its economy still revolved around farming, and the prospect of industrialization seemed a distant dream. Yes, the Swiss textile firm sparked an industrial awakening in the principality, but the country was again on its own after they went back to their own country. Still, after that, Liechtenstein was not the same country anymore. It had experienced the potential of the industry, and it was eager to reclaim it. So after the war, the nation took matters into its own hands, inviting corporations and fostering its own industries. The impact was profound. By the late 20th century, Liechtenstein had one of the highest industrial outputs per person in the world. Today, more than 40% of the people are employed in industry, compared to a mere 1% in agriculture. Its industrial sector includes high-value precision instruments, electronics, and power tools, cementing its place as a global industrial powerhouse. So yes, Liechtenstein's transformation from a rural economy to industrialized nation is an impressive story. But what were the key drivers of this change? How did Liechtenstein, against all odds, turn the tide in its favor? Let's find out. One of the keys to Liechtenstein's prosperity lies not in what it does, but in what it consciously chooses not to do. This small nation, set amid global giants, has remained neutral in world affairs. But how has this affected its economy? Well, to understand, let's take a look at some numbers. The World Bank estimates that low-income countries involved in wars lose an average of 10 years of GDP growth. A colossal price, isn't it? Now imagine a country that cleverly avoids these costly conflicts. That's Liechtenstein for you. In 1867, Liechtenstein disbanded its army and declared permanent neutrality, which was respected during both world wars. Even in the Cold War, which was occurring close to its borders, Liechtenstein remained away. This long-standing neutrality has allowed Liechtenstein to avoid the economic ravages of war and direct its resources toward internal growth and development. Another key turning point in Liechtenstein's story came with the beginning of its tax haven era. This phase played a big role in helping Liechtenstein grow rich, and here is why. Liechtenstein made itself attractive to businesses around the world by keeping its taxes low and providing a safe and private place for money. And guess what? Businesses loved it. In fact, by the 21st century, there were more corporate job vacancies in Liechtenstein than there were people living in the country. This fact was confirmed by the CIA World Factbook. With so many businesses setting up shop, banking and money managing became big businesses in Liechtenstein. The LGT Group, which is owned by Liechtenstein's royal family, became a world leader in managing wealth. Even though Liechtenstein made a lot of money as a tax haven, it knew it could not rely on that alone. So the smart people there came up with a plan to spread their bets. They started making other things that people could pay a lot of money for. This is what we call economic diversification. They focused on building things that needed a lot of skill and precision, and they were pretty good at it. For example, do you like driving cars? Well, some of the parts that make your car's steering work were probably made in Liechtenstein. ThyssenKrupp Presta, a company from Liechtenstein, made these parts. They send them all the way to car factories in Indiana and Illinois. So if you have a Chrysler, Ford, or Tesla, your car has steering tools from this small nation. That's not all. When you go to the dentist, there is a good chance that some of the stuff they use to fix your teeth was also made in Liechtenstein. Ivoclar Vivident is a company in Liechtenstein that manufactures dental products and exports them globally. In fact, this country is the largest exporter of false teeth in the whole world. Even the music you listen to and the speeches you hear on TV might be coming through equipment made in Liechtenstein. A company called Nutric makes parts for most of the microphones and other audio devices sold in the US. And Liechtenstein is not just about making money, it is also about sharing it. The leaders there believe that everyone should benefit from the country's wealth. So they have a system that helps spread the money around. This includes things like good healthcare, free education, and financial help for people who need it. This means that even if you are not super rich in Liechtenstein, you still get to live a pretty good life. And the gap between the rich and the poor is not as wide as in other places. They have found a way to balance things out so that everyone gets a fair share. Today, it seems wrong to say that Liechtenstein is a small country because this little gem is actually a smart player on the big stage. One of its smartest moves was joining the European Economic Area, or the EEA, in 1995. This is a group of countries in Europe that have agreed to do business freely with each other. By joining the EEA, Liechtenstein made it easier for its companies to sell their products to a bigger market. This gave a big boost to businesses in Liechtenstein and helped make the country even richer. But it was not just about making money. Being part of the EEA also meant that Liechtenstein agreed to follow the rules about things like human rights and the environment. This helped make sure that the country grew richer. It also became a better place to live. Let's look at what Liechtenstein is today. With a GDP of over $6.11 billion, it stands as the richest country on Earth. This small nation, once thought too tiny to survive, has proved everyone wrong in the most spectacular way. Today, more than 39,000 people call Liechtenstein home, enjoying a high standard of living, robust education, and top-notch healthcare. Also, despite having more registered companies than citizens, Liechtenstein maintains a low unemployment rate, around 1.3%. Furthermore, the small nation hosts a multitude of international corporations, all benefiting from the country's stable economy and strategic location in the heart of Europe. Indeed, it is clear that Liechtenstein, once an underdog, is now a titan in the economic world. As we wrap up, we want to ask you, how can larger nations use Liechtenstein's unique approach to boost their own economic growth? Share your views with us in the comments below. Before you go, give this video a big thumbs up and make sure to hit that subscribe button to watch more interesting content like this. See you in the next one. Goodbye.